In all seriousness, what's this year been like, and what's this week been like as leads up to a dream come true, maybe? What's it been like?
Trying to get me to cry on the first question? You know what, Andre? It's been very emotional. It's very surreal. It's kind of hard to grasp, overwhelming at times, and I'm not trying to be fake modesty, but it's you're very humbled by it. I mean, all of us that are in this world of baseball know how lucky we are to be in this game. I mean, I'll never get a better phone call than January of 1990 when Tom Wilson, who at that time was one of the owners of 3WE, which is now TAM, offered me the job. And you couldn't believe you ever would get that phone call. So obviously, professionally, this is the second best phone call, on December 11th. But it's just, it's hard to comprehend, but we're very grateful.
Are you getting congratulations every stadium you go to?
Yeah. People have been so kind, Jeff. Various ball clubs have done various things. And again, you're just kind of amazed by it because they've got a lot going on with their own teams, their own organizations. So for them to take that time, there's a lot of good people in this world. I think sometimes we forget that. We all get very cynical or maybe negative, or maybe I do. And this reaffirms how many good people there are.
Tom, you rarely make the trip to Anaheim, but you did this year because...
Because I wanted to see you, Joe.
Well, but that first trip, going in this year and the role that Terry had with you, what was it like catching up with him early?
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up, Joe, because, and I've told Terry this, Wendy and I got together with Terry and his wife, Sonia. I mean, we've known each other, since the late 80s. Terry and Sonia were married when they were in Columbus, and I got hired in Columbus in August of 1986, and there was this good-looking news anchor that I didn't know named Wendy that I eventually married, and I don't want that to come across as sexist, but, and she's a great gal and an incredible wife and mother, and, Wendy and I got married in 1988, so literally, Terry and Sonia and Wendy and I have known each other as couples for 37, 38 years. And we get together with them in the off season out in Phoenix. And I told Terry, I volunteered, and you tell young people this, man, if you go to your boss and volunteer, the amount of work you get is stunning. And so when I volunteered to help Terry out there, like, yeah, if Terry's good with it. And, Terry said, oh, by all means, because he was doing a full AAA season plus the Buckeyes. And so, I would do a couple of innings of play-by-play for Terry to give him a break and then sit in with him the rest of the home games because I had a job in the morning to get up at 3:30 for. But without that AAA experience for those 3 years, I'm not sitting here today. So I'm eternally grateful for Terry and that kind gesture because he could have said no.
So how did you sleep during that time, Tom? I mean,
Quickly. You learn to live. You know what it was? It was a good precursor to having children. Getting 2 and 3 hour naps. So you'd get home maybe at 12 o'clock, 12:30, and be up at 3:30 and catch a nap, middle of the day, and then go to the ballpark. So again, you're young, you're grateful for the opportunity, and I knew if I had any hope of ever getting a major league job, at least to my mind, I needed AAA experience, and Terry and the Clippers afforded me that for 3 years.
Hammy, you're obviously the man of the hour here, but what would you say about what your broadcast partners had to put up with for the last 19 years?
Well, they'll go straight to heaven. There will be no purgatory for them. Zach, in all seriousness, I haven't had a bad partner in 36 years. Now, they may disagree, but I haven't had a bad partner, starting with Herb, then with Davey Nelson, then with Matt Underwood, who does such an incredible job, on TV now, and then with Mike Egan, and then now finally with Rosie. And Rosie and I have been together now, I don't know, Jim, 14 years since Mike retired. So that's been my longest relationship, and we're close friends. And, he's who I go out to dinner with when we're on the road. So I've been friends with all of them, still friends with those that are still here. And, for 7 months, you're with your partner more than your family. And if you don't get along, and we've heard the stories, I mean, who was it here that they didn't like each other? Was it Jack Graney? And
Bob Neal.
okay, yeah, thanks, Jeff. I mean, you heard the stories that back in the days of the old metal wastebaskets, when one was on the air, the other guy would eat chicken, take the bones and throw it into the wastebasket so it would rattle around, and people could hear that on the air. That's how well they got along. So, I've been really fortunate. I've worked with really good people, really good friends, and hey, we all have our crosses to bear. They had theirs.
Spoke to many of the members of your broadcasting fraternity, all the different teams in the league and all that, and they spoke so highly of you.
Thank you.
And
That was such a all of you. First off, I'm going to interrupt you. I cannot thank everybody enough, whether it's print media, electronic media, for everything people have written or done on television and whatnot. Thank all of you, or on radio. I mean, you've all been so kind, and thank you. And that story. Oh boy. Your peers mean every. Thanks, Bart. That got me back to reality. Your peers, I was more excited when I got the job in 1990 to meet Ernie Harwell, to meet Vin Scully, to meet John Miller, to reacquaint myself with Bob Uecker. I couldn't believe I was getting to meet those people. Those were the people that you hoped you had something in common with. I wasn't good enough to play in the major leagues, so I loved meeting and talking with all of our players and whatnot, but those were the guys and ladies that, you really connected to, and the story you did and their thoughts, that meant everything.
now that you're going to be in the fraternity of Ford C. Frick Award winners and the legends that have won that award, what do you think about just joining that group of
Don't belong, and I'm not trying to be humble. I don't feel at all like I should be in that class with them. But, again, we're very grateful for it. I don't know, Joe, and I should have, and maybe Wendy and I will, we're driving up to Cooperstown tomorrow, and, taking in the day and taking in Thursday before everything kind of gets going at a rapid speed on Friday. Maybe then we'll talk about it, and I don't know, you got the word, and then the next thing you know, you're getting ready for spring training, and you're, getting ready for a season. That's still the most important thing, is this job, and I don't ever take that for granted. I don't know that I can look at myself that way or start thinking that way. It probably doesn't make sense, but I'm not at any of their level. But, it'll be, like I say, it's just an incredible honor. And there's so many other guys so deserving, and ladies too. Susan Waldman, in my mind, should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago. What Susan's done as a pioneer in this business, and she's really good at it, and you won't meet anyone that works harder at it. And what Susan brings to a broadcast and the stories she knows about players, there are so many of those people you talk to today, in my mind, should be in the Hall of Fame.
Tom, have you noticed maybe over the last 10, 15 years with, the internet and social media, a lot of your sound clips
No.
get
And you know why,
transcribed?
Joe? I don't do social media, or Curtis would have fired me 10 years ago, because he knows how I would have probably responded to some of those social media. I just, and there's,
More of a national
following and stuff
Yeah,
because it
you know
comes
what,
up?
Joe, again, I don't think that way. My youngest son, Bradley, who's at Channel 8 now and is moving to San Francisco, and he's in the business. He's like his mom, a news reporter. He's much more in tune with that, and he'll point things out or send you something. And I'm grateful, but you also know, Joe, as many people that like it don't. So if you get all caught up in social media and take all the rainbows and all the praise, you'll be deflated pretty soon. I get a lot of letters in crayon from adults telling me what they think, and so you don't, you better be able to take that with a grain of salt too. So I think what has happened, maybe because of my age, Joe, I'm not as attuned to it, and I don't want to be, because you don't want to get caught up in that, because people like you, but they'll turn on you. And you know what? The one thing we all know in this business, and Andre knows it, and Rosie knows it, and anyone else Ben, who does such a great job for Baltimore, you're 15 seconds away from being done. You're 15 seconds away from saying the right thing that came out the wrong way, or you went too far. And you better always keep that in mind. We don't have a net. What we say is out there. And one of the things social media has done today, if you did say something that maybe nobody heard, the next thing you know, it's on social media, and how many people have lost jobs because of that. So you're cognizant every time you're in that booth. Don't get too full of yourself, because you're that close away from your career being over, and not in a dignified way.
Wasn't mean going in the same weekend as.
Pardon?
Wasn't mean going in the same weekend as CC, who he called his first pitch.
You wouldn't think it could get better, and it did. Because we have had so many great players here that I feel like I have a really good relationship with and a friendship with, more so from the earlier years, because you were closer in age. You walk into that clubhouse now and you're like, oh my God, our 4 children are older than all of the guys in here. So, they're probably looking at me and going, oh, Grandpa's still here with us. I didn't know he made it through the night. But, yeah, it's, Cece's just one of those special people among the many we've had here. He is always going to be considered the best teammate anybody played with, whether it was here, whether it's in Milwaukee. I don't know if you guys and ladies have seen some of the stories out of Milwaukee. What was he with the Brewers? A little over 2 months. The impact he made in that clubhouse in 2 months, and obviously with the New York Yankees. So, and I think the world of his wife, Amber. They have such an incredible family, and in this day and age where we're losing sometimes the importance of family, CC and Amber are exemplary parents and are what family is all about. So to go in with him, it's an incredible honor. And I'm not going in with him. He went in as a player, and the Hall of Fame's about the players.
How many times did you rewrite your speech?
You know what, Jeff? I'll tell you when I'm done. I feel like every night I'm tweaking it. You're never happy with it. And when I say that, I've never done a speech. No one wants to talk about themselves. My hardest 2 speeches, if you want to call it that, presentations, they weren't in college or high school. It was doing Herb and Mike's eulogies, because you didn't want to disappoint the families. It was such an incredible honor, but you felt a lot of pressure to say the right things for Mike Egan and Herb Score, 2 of the best people any of us have ever been around. And this is, there with that, because you're not comfortable talking about yourself, and you don't want to disappoint people again. But if the speech sucks in 2 hours, the bar's open, and most people will probably forget it. So we'll be good.
Really think, do you really think you'll read it? Because you spoke, you know what I mean? Like,
You know what, Andre, the one thing I've learned, usually the hard way, is if I don't have something in front of me, you're not going to read it verbatim, but the next thing you know, you lose your train of thought, and you're like, ooh. So I'll have something there. I don't want to read it. I don't want it to be rote. They tell you to be yourself, and I was like, ooh, you may regret telling me that. I don't know, Andre. It's just kind of one of those keeps you up at night, you know. But everyone says the same thing. They all say, hey, once you're through the speech, you know. But hey, it's all part of it. And
It's probably personal. I'm not trying to age you, but you say stay relevant, and you've stayed relevant for a lot of years. For any of us, how do you think you've been able to do that? Because I know you're not on social media, but there's a younger generation that's grown up on you that loves who and what you are from what they've heard.
You know, I hope I have. I don't know that I always have, especially when your own children will call you and say something, you're like, huh? You know? So, you know, you get to my age, there's only so much relevance. I mean, we watched Game of Thrones, for instance, my wife and I, because that's all anyone was talking about. And it was like you'd be in the clubhouse and guys, and you were like, oh, what the heck is Game of... So you do stuff like that, so maybe you've got a connecting thing to talk about sometimes. I know that's probably a poor example, but it was literally why we watched it, and we ended up loving it. I hope you do, but again, I get where I'm at age-wise, you know. You know, there's some things you're just not relevant with. Some of the music you're not, you know, in tune with. You know, I guess it's gone full circle. You know, my first trips were always from Tucson to Phoenix with Herb. We were the only team in spring training in Tucson. So every road game was 2+ hours, as Hoinsey certainly remembers. And all we listened to both ways was Frank Sinatra. And, you know, it's come full circle, you know. So I appreciate you saying that, and I thank you for that. I wish I was more relevant, more in tune, but, you know, that's up to Rosie. He's younger.
And what's the challenge like slipping all those commercials in during the play-by-play?
Well, that's how we get paid, Jeff. So while it's a challenge we're never going to complain about, you know, because without those, we don't make the living that we make. You know, you know what, the ball club has been so good about, I better not say anything about another sport. Okay, there are some games you listen to where it's like, oh my Lord, can you please tell me what's going on, not read another? We don't do that. You know, I only have to do one every half inning. And so that it really hasn't been as much of a challenge as you would think. But that's because the ball club believes in the quality of the broadcast. I can't state this enough. You're taking me down another path, Jeff. But in my 36 years, there have been obviously times I messed up, said something, I was like, what the hell? You know, and regret it, and you regret it to this day. The ball club may have said something along the lines, hey, but at no point, starting with the Dolan family, or the Jacobs family, the Dolan family, starting with Hank Peters, be it Danny O'Dow, John Hart, Mark Shapiro, Chris, Cherney, at no point in 36 years had they ever said anything about how to do the broadcast. They've always believed, you know, you need to have credibility. Not every play is a great play, because if there is a great play, then the audience is like, oh, what the hell? You know, that 18 hopper you just called a great play. So, you know, you try not to be, I never want to make it personal if you are critical, but you have to point out the things that are wrong. And for 36 years, to have an organization that I'm sure they cringe sometimes too, but never told you how to do your job, that's unheard of in this business.
You found yourself looking back this season or this year, like, I mean, when you started, there were 4,000 people in an 80,000 seat stadium, and Herb sometimes not knowing what city he was in. And, you know, now it's just to see the metamorphosis of everything.
I've thought back to my time with Bart on his first road trip into Seattle, taking him to Swanee's, which is a cultural experience. But other than that, and I'll let Bart fill you in, Yeah, you have, Joe, in all seriousness. Yeah, I mean, you do reflect. Part of that reflection was putting the speech together. I wished I had maybe done a journal down through the years, because there's probably so much that you've forgotten down through the years that's occurred. We've been so blessed to have this job, and I know how fortunate I am. And then 14 times in the last 30 years, we've been in the playoffs, 3 times in the World Series. There aren't many other broadcasters that have been as lucky as I have been. Think of my 36 years and compare it to Herb. And for Herb, not until 1995 were we in the playoffs. And I'm not sure what year that was for Herb, but that had to be close to 33, 34 years for Herb. And Herb stayed relevant and became an icon because Herb was the one constant during all those bad years and it never impacted his broadcast. That is being a true master of your craft. But yeah, you do. You're reflecting more. And again, when you get to my age, it's kind of a byproduct. You look back because there's a lot less in front of you, unfortunately.
I know you said that you don't necessarily like keep up with social media, but was there ever like a call or something that you said that maybe somebody showed you that took on a life of its own that kind of made you chuckle or shocked you a little bit?
Oh, yeah, there have been. I mean, the obvious one is the Tim Anderson, and I mean, I don't know if I'll ever make another call. We might win the World Series and somebody will go, yeah, but it wasn't like the Tim Anderson call, and so you don't want to be just noted for that. But you're grateful for it. And I got really lucky on that because I had a better angle than some other broadcasters. We're all up in there on different angles, and every broadcast booth had a different angle of that fight, and I might have had the best angle to actually see what was happening, so you get lucky. So that took on a life of my own. That I'm driving home that night, and my youngest son, Bradley, calls and he goes, "Dad, you've gone viral." And I was like, oh, dear God, this can't be good. All right, when's Curtis calling? So I had no idea what that meant and didn't even think anything of that call. It was just an amazing scene. I didn't think about the call. I was more like, I've never seen a guy square off like Tim Anderson did and drop his glove. I mean, we've seen guys charge them out. I've never seen it at the base. I was more amazed about how quickly that escalated and what the end result was. So that's probably the one that comes to mind. I'm sure there are others, both good and bad. That's a good question. I'd have to think more about that. There's some stuff out there the kids will show me. There's somebody that imitates my calls, but he's hilarious. He also needs to get a life. Why are you imitating me? He is a riot, and I've laughed at those. So that's probably the best. I'm like, that is a talented guy. That take away my audio, what he's doing with his eyes and everything. He's hilarious.
He's gonna redo that.
Yeah, he's gonna redo this.
Pardon? He's gonna redo the same.
Oh, shit.
You're gonna go
Remember
viral.
how I said there are things you regret? No, I didn't mean to denigrate him at all. I wish I had that kind of talent,
Okay.
Hey, everyone. Again, thank you so much. Thank you.